Do magic has been the theme of today everywhere. I want to point out to John Beckett's wonderful blog about the idea of who does magic and is magic real. My friend Byron Ballard is always saying that, if you're a witch, do magic.
Hmm.
And so this is the Ed the Pagan Show with Reverend Don. And today we're going to talk about do magic. Is magic real, but do magic? And
Yes.
you said that too, that you do
Hmm.
magic.
Well, I mean, if you're going to call yourself a witch, magic is the center of the argument, I would think. How
So,
can you possibly claim um, that path and not believe in magic? I mean, I can
so
understand you might not, as an individual, practice it, but how do you
mhm.
not accept the concept? It's very odd to me.
So I can give you a counter answer that I've
Hmm.
been reading today. So the idea is that magic is also cultural. Being a witch is cultural, and
Hmm.
that the crafts are not magic. Herbalism, medicines, all of that others, all the kind of the traditional witch practices don't necessarily represent magic, and that it was only called magic because it was science not formed. So a lot of witch people are saying magic is either psychology or it's something other than magic.
Okay.
What can you
I
say?
Like I say, it's an odd thought to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then, I mean, I grew up with magic, and I've spent my life with it. The idea of um, a non-magical world is very odd to me.
Mm-hmm. So when was the first moment? And we're completely. You can ask us anything. This is kind of on the hoof
Yeah.
today. We have no real subject other than I thought this was a fascinating thing to see in the community right now, especially against the shedding of the final skin. It feels like a shedding that John Becket is going through a shedding process of that skin. And
Hmm.
one of the questions he asked, and I thought he did a
Hmm.
brilliant job with it. Hmm?
Well, it's very interesting because on my feed today, I saw a conversation going on with Wade Spellsinger
Mm-hmm.
talking about a particular individual in the great fight over Ronald Hutton, and the issue came up that this is a person, not necessarily Hutton, but the person they're talking about who doesn't believe in magic, and that is part of the bias of her point of view,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is an interesting. I think it probably does point to a political division as well as a philosophical division.
So early in psychic research,
Hmm.
right? I said early psychic Duke University is one of my favorites. We played with a lot of ESP cards. I don't want to get
Oh
back
yeah.
into it. But one of the things I said almost what was always wrong about the testing is that they wanted to prove it false. They were looking and built into the experiments to take negatives,
Hmm.
i.e., misses, and all of that against statisticals. And they were unwilling to accept easily, as easy as the negatives, as the positives.
Hmm.
And if you really dig down, they found a lot. Enough for CIA to fund some of the
Hmm.
experiments. The Russian government, when we were growing up, we were told we were going to be invaded by Russian spies,
Hmm.
psychic spies. Hmm?
Arguably we were, but that's beside the point.
It may be true, right?
Yeah,
You know,
for 15 years, we've had a peace prayer campaign based partly on that concept.
that we have, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that piece of magic. I was mentioning it the other day that it came out of the idea of when we,
It
well,
came out of the idea that there were people deliberately spreading
mhm.
hatred and fear and using psychic techniques in part of the way they were doing it.
And also the fact the government was also weaponizing some of the names of gods, particularly ISIS,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
and making not people forget about the Phoenix people. What is that name? Yaos Yaosmund, which was trapped on a mountain. They were the rainbow demon. They were Sikhs. They were trapped on their mountain. They wouldn't be let down because they had a different religious point of view.
Hmm.
You know, they were derivatives from Sikhs, but they had a very long time for a local deity.
Hmm.
Um, there. So we see this. But what was the first moment? Let's ask you, and maybe I'll answer next. But what was the first piece of magic you ever realized?
You realized in the sense of witnessing or
That you said,
performing?
this is magic. This is where I begin my belief. That you can actually say that's what you're doing.
In terms of personally practicing magic, I was in school. I was in front of an important test. I don't remember what the test was now.
Mm-hmm.
But I did something to do well on that test, and the next day I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that as being the success of the magic, because I certainly wasn't prepared for the test. It's not a particularly breathtaking example, but it's the first
It
one
doesn't
I
have, I think, and that was one of the things I saw in a lot of the answers.
Mhm.
To
Well,
Beckett's and
magic
other
isn't
people.
necessarily breathtaking.
Yeah, Casa de Ville put out a fairly strong piece that he also agreed.
Mhm.
That the idea of most people, a lot of people who would call them witches and things like that, aren't really believers. So there's believers of magic and non-believers of magic, but believe in the witchcraft. But everybody's making the point that they believe, and I don't know if this is gatekeeping, um, that most, and they put all sorts of different percentages, none
Mhm.
scientific, that they only wish there's magic. They're practicing this
Well,
as
I
wishing.
think there are a lot of people in the community who talk a good talk, but they don't really believe it.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking the other day, and I mentioned Mike Nelson, who had reviewed my books years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And although they were some of the most positive reviews, he
Mm-hmm.
did say that with the third degree, he was questioning my sanity with some of the kinds of magic I was describing, because it was beyond his ability to believe. And at that time, you and I and Marianne had the conversation about my magic is truer than yours. I forget how she used to put that,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that the same people who would accept one idea would not accept another one. But in third degree, I talk about chrono magic, working with time. I talk about that was the one that he found hardest to understand. But if you
Oh,
actually are
I can
working with
understand
magic,
that.
it's not hard to understand at all.
Oh, having been, I tell people that yes, I believe in time travel. I've done
Time is
some
very fluid.
experiences with time travel. But no, I'm not a time traveler per se. I'm part of some, and I really do believe this. I'm part of a time travel experiment somewhere in the future here.
Hmm.
And I've had moments where I've come back and have given very detailed information, which
Yeah.
made a huge difference. And one of them is technology. And if everybody wants to know, I wrote a principle prophetic, and I've been debating if I should bring that
Mhm.
out now. Because some of it's really beginning to come true.
Oh yeah.
People forget in 2015, 26, was it 2016? Yeah, it was 2016, right before the elections of 2016. I declared Trump was going to win the World Series. The Cubs were going to win the World Series, right?
Yep.
The Russians were inside. Just a Ouija board experiment.
Yeah.
And the last one I've always kind of held back. I'm like, whoo. And that's World Conqueror.
Hmm.
And then when he got out of office, they go, okay, that must not have been there. But now it's suddenly coming back. The idea of the Russians, Trump, this ideology and that thing of a world conqueror
Hmm.
is important. I mean, I've also had other moments. My biggest problem, I think, as a reader
Yeah.
is my messaging. I'm
Hmm.
right. I'm seeing the right visions.
Yeah.
I mean,
But nobody ever believes you until later.
but like, and again, and I can't sometimes. I sometimes because of circumstance, I won't put it together. In Salem, I had COVID dead to rights. I did.
I
I was,
remember you were calling me from Salem to tell me what a coincidence it was that so many different clients were
mm-hmm,
getting this same interruption in their readings in the future, like everything was going to shut down.
right.
And you didn't put it together in the sense of an epidemic, because who would have?
Mm-hmm,
But yeah, I remember you were very struck by it.
right. And that was message over messaging. If I had said, and I did say some, you're going to be shut down, you're not going to
Yeah.
operate.
Hmm.
Does that mean? And some people I thought maybe were losing their jobs, and some people were going to go on vacation.
Yeah, I
Even
remember all
Martin,
that.
even when I was doing Martin Short, it came in.
I remember.
Yeah, even then it was his interruption. It's like something big's going to happen. You're going to be able to finish around April. You're going to be forced to finish one of your books, one of your
Hmm.
scripts. He looked at me, goes like, "I've got a bunch of those." Go, yeah, but you're going to be forced to actually take that on, and he did.
Yeah,
Uh, so, so, so is divination and prophecy part of magic? Is it magic or is it something else? People ask that question.
I would consider that part of. I would consider that part of magic, although I think that magic is a very fluid term. A lot of things can be considered part of magic.
Right.
I've been known to talk about magic as being the active use
Mm-hmm.
of the higher powers of the soul, and psychism the passive use. But
Mm-hmm.
really, these things heavily overlap. I mean, the idea of separating them can be useful, but is also artificial. It's all magic, in my opinion.
So I agree. I mean, I believe in magic. And also,
But,
you know,
I tell people when I do teaching, we all do magic every moment we're alive. We just don't know it
mm-hmm.
until we study it. What we're really learning is not how to do magic, but how to take control of what is normally an unconscious process.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that very, very firmly, and I watch people do it all the time. It's one of
So,
the reasons I finally came to the point of view that if I see someone self-destructing, I can try to help, but there's not much I'm going to be able to do to stop them because they're manifesting it.
mm-hmm.
The only one who can really stop it is the person themselves. You can try to help, but you can't do it for them.
So I agree with that. So a lot of people don't realize I believe in a quantum field. I've always believed from before people met me from my childhood. I've always believed in this sort of coming techno magic, the
Hmm.
energy of that. And that, and it began me to do something before even the internet, the World Wide Web. I knew about the internet. I started building something telepathic, a Lantean. People
Hmm.
don't really realize before I was identified with witch school and took service as being my first identity. I was Atlantean. I understood eschatology. I was an occultist.
Hmm.
I got 2 degrees out of the second, out of Gardnerianism before I became Corellian. I would later get my third degree later. Um,
Hmm.
I belonged to the OTO for a little while. Got 2 degrees before I quit. Um, Hung out at the occult bookstore all the time. You know,
Hmm.
people don't realize I was a wild child magician in Chicago, and I was known for that. Hmm?
Yeah, you were.
I would chalk sigils all over the city. Yeah, people, they would ask, where do those symbols come? And it was at a time in the 90s where graffiti was a big issue.
Yes,
Hmm.
I remember that time.
Um, we did very physical things. We did a lot of ritual. I had my own coven,
Hmm.
Beer Society, David and Tina.
Hmm.
Um, Not Ralph, Ron, your friend.
Oh yes, Ron. Of
Yeah,
course.
Ron was a member of it before I even knew you.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were, I had a very strong mirror group, which we did divinations, we did all sorts of rituals and
Hmm.
visions, and all sorts of things. So I've always been involved with the prophetic, the visionary.
Hmm.
Plus, I also like summoning things. And the
Yes.
truth is, it's one of the hardest magic out there because you don't know if you can do it or not, or if you did it or not. And I have failed so many summonings. I've succeeded with a few, and that scared
Yeah.
people. Right now, the fact that I can summon shadows
Hmm.
and I can, move shadows across, people are like, a lot of people don't believe me. And that gets back to the idea, do you believe somebody says they can do these magical acts? And the thing is, you have to prove it. So I've been
Yeah.
doing little things like that. And to prove it, anyone who asks says, can I see Ed's shadow? Anyone right now who goes out in this moon or more importantly, during the solar eclipse, which is in Antarctica, so it doesn't really affect us, but goes out, moon energy, which is new moon energy, go out there and ask Ed's shadow, right? Go outside where there's shadows. You can ask for Ed's shadows and then ask a question and see what happens.
Cool.
That's a real piece of magic, I'm telling you.
Yes,
I mean,
it
we
is.
do it doing it. And
Well,
it'll.
I was talking the other day about divination and how you can create a form of divination on the spot by simply declaring the language that spirit can use to talk to you. And a shadow is one way to do it, certainly.
So, and one of the things about divination is the randomness. It's good
Yes,
that it has patterns,
it
but
must be fairly random.
right, or else there's no real game there.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't realize I've written the Principle of Fredica. It's been distributed a couple of times, and I've put out a few verses. Some of it's really gotten eerie strong. It was written in 1993.
Yeah.
I'm wondering not put it out in whole, but it talks a lot about the war between kids and adults that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
The attack on kids. I mean, like today, there's a governmental report, which I can't trust anymore. Not really.
No.
But it said that the age group that is Generation Z has lost 7 IQ points from the previous generation. And they're arguing.
Interesting if true, but.
Well, and what they're arguing is it's because of they can see that the loss was doing to screens. And screens did something very important.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you what screens do, what microchips do, and how it expands the human mind really quick. It's very, very magical. We were not allowed to use calculators in school.
That's true.
And we were not allowed to wear the brand new fancy digital watches.
Mm-hmm.
The reason is we had to learn the numbers and we had to learn how to read a watch. Trust me, I have never gone past much later. And by high school, they were letting us use calculators and no one cared how you watched the thing. And yes, did that begin to fade for people? Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, they quickly realized that they were having an inappropriate reaction.
So I think anytime they're testing against the older generation, you forget what is functional amnesia.
Well, we were talking about this earlier today and the subject of cursive writing and rotary phones and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to try to test young people today on common knowledge of the 1920s, of things you would use in daily life, they wouldn't know how to use them. But what need on earth would they have to know how to charge up a phone before they use it?
Mm-hmm.
How to start the battery on the car before you can start the car? They don't need to know that. No car today operates that way.
So the big one today for cars is clutches and stick shifts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's huge. I mean, there's still a goodly percentage of people who know how to use it. My son-in-law, Marky the farmer.
Yeah.
People who still do trucks. But for the majority of people, they don't even realize there was a time when you had to move a clutch, which was pushing a pedal down to get things started. And you also controlled some of your driving gears with a stick shift. You'd move it.
But for a lot of people, it's at this point outdated technology.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone. Some people still use it. Some people prefer it. But for a lot of people, it's just not there.
And see, I think that's what makes up part of witchcraft. Is sometimes useful knowledge has fallen out of the public ideology. Is it magic? You know how to use a stick shift. Well, it could be there's a certain mechanical truth to it. But if you can use a stick shift and you're getting into a truck at the right time in the right place, it's magical. It's important. It can make a huge difference. When we were younger, cursive was taught to all of us.
Yep.
And eventually I got out of it because I had terrible cursive. Nobody could read my cursive. And I started printing.
Well, that's an important point because when we were learning cursive, it was already a degraded art form. I mean, I look at my great-grandmother's cursive handwriting, which I've been able to see. She wrote in copperplate. It was beautiful. very, very precise, not at all the kind of cursive that we used.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's actually been declining in a lot of ways long before now. But, like I was saying earlier, a young person today has virtually no need to use cursive anywhere in their life.
Mm-mm.
Those who do, for some reason, it's not that hard to learn. It's a lot easier, I would imagine, as an adult than as a child, because there's still the same letters. There's just slight differences.
Well, I think it's going to become witches can't. I mean, I think it's going to be yet another witches language. People can't
Oh,
read.
yeah, it will become a magical alphabet, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because most of the magical alphabets that people use today are based on what were once ordinary alphabets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the runes were the daily alphabet of early Germanic peoples. A lot of those ceremonial alphabets that you see are based on ancient Greek, which was a little bit different from modern Greek. In some cases, on ancient Greek cursive writing, which modern people never ever see, but it did exist. Things like the Theban runes owe quite a bit, I believe, to cursive Greek. And in the chat room,
Yeah, I got Christmas cards from my aunts, Gregory White. And I was just talking about you earlier. Got Christmas cards from my aunts, and their writing looked exactly like my mother's. Standard cursive was taught to all. Yeah. That was a generation.
Mm-hmm. And that was a generation that did a lot of actual writing. But
yeah.
The point of cursive is to be able to write more quickly. And, cursive is kind of going the same way as stenography.
I was just going to mention,
there was a whole form of writing and symbolism for stenography that I doubt anyone much remembers now.
Oh, I don't think they do, right?
Yeah. A couple of historical nerds, some very elderly people, but for the most part, that form of shorthand is long gone.
Oh yeah, I always thought it actually. I actually,
mm-hmm. I can remember it was still a thing when we were children.
Well, I was a paralegal.
Mm-hmm.
I was the last generation of pure paper paralegal, and the next year I was starting to learn how to use computers, Lexis, and all of that.
And in those days,
mm-hmm.
It was not uncommon for people in an executive position to dictate a letter to their assistant or their secretary, who had to write at the same speed they were speaking. And they did it in this shorthand, which you had to know how to read to be able to interpret.
And the same went for courts. I mean, you had your stenographer who was doing the recordings. Remember, that was another type of art where you only use there's only like 6 or 8 keys.
Mm-hmm. And I'm conflating the two things, which are actually somewhat different, but they're also not somewhat different.
Oh, sure. I believe that. I'll put it on the screen for you. Not just knowing cursive, we had younger players who have no idea how to write a check.
I'm sure that's true, but it's a completely different issue.
It's not the same different issue because writing a check is irrelevant now. Banks are getting rid of checks. I mean, they have for a long time. And so they have them.
The only reason I ever write a check is to transfer money from one account to another. So because I don't have a branch of my bank in the city that I live in.
And there are some of that. But this is what we're talking about, amnesia. And I think we suffer from it in the pagan community. I think we're suffering it bad from the pagan community as well.
Mm-hmm.
The magical community, as we're talking about doing magic. And as we rip off the end of the snake, right, we're starting to realize we got a whole different generation that looks at it very differently. How are we going to reach them? Do we want to reach them? That's a big question.
For some people, yeah.
I argue for the majority of people right now, we're back at the same time as the 90s where they allowed no children and teenagers in. It wasn't until the 2000s that we let teenagers in on their own accord. We did as a tradition through the internet. But the internet allows that age difference. But in Chicago,
Mhm.
unless you were a parent with a kid, you couldn't bring kids in it.
For the most part.
So Lynn mentions, oh yeah, the stenographers still exist. I knew 3 women taking stenography course and how hard it was. Sure, it's a very secret
Mhm.
little language that has to be taken very, very, very quickly, and it has to be so good well that they have to serve it. They have to read them back. But when I was a paralegal, I had to take notes when I was sitting in the thing with my stenographer pad,
Mhm.
and I had to. Okay, why is cursive writing important, Lynn? Lynn's that? Here we go.
I personally see no reason that it has any importance at all.
I think in magical writings it does because it can give you a flow. It can give you an energy. One of my favorite spells is a Mobius strip.
Mhm.
And a Mobius strip with cursive writing is kind of fun if it's done well.
Mhm.
People don't know the Mobius strip. I should have had a piece of paper here. It is a long string of paper. You loop it and you twist it.
Mhm.
And it's a continuous pattern. To create an attractive book of spells, of shadows. Sure, absolutely. I think personally, if you want beautiful writing, yes, learn cursive. But I think it's a skill in that's a difference between a skill in an art. Writing beautiful prose. I like calligraphy
Mhm.
when it's done right. Cursive, I like it when it's done right. I mean, it
Well,
can all be.
that's goes back to when I was talking about copperplate cursive.
Hmm.
Copperplate cursive was extremely attractive,
Hmm.
but I'm hard pressed to think of anyone I know who can do that.
Me, how do I put my signature to the legal forms? Usually EAH on a form that recognizes me. I haven't signed a legal form with my signature in probably 2 or 3 years. Not our incorporation papers. A lot of that we just don't use signatures. We use.
That's true. I can think of a couple of exceptions in the last few years where I've actually had to sign a signature, but they were very rare.
And my signature is, and that's come up for another reason in it about the Great Pagan Library. But no, my signature is scrawl. Yeah,
But, I often remark when I go to the pharmacy, I have to sign for my medications,
mhm.
but there's no pen involved. You're signing on the little screen,
Yeah.
and no matter how careful I am, it's always illegible.
And do you know in Japan they don't use signatures? And I think we might see this in our own place. They use
Oh, I'm sure they
chops.
will. Mhm.
They use square pegs called chops. And that represents your signature. So you kind of take it, put it in ink, and put it on the end of the paper.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
seals. Yeah.
Don talked about that too. Greg is like, here you go, I'll put it on the screen. My, sig- my signature changed when I had to start autographing books because of the volume.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier today, and I made the same comment that started
Hmm.
using cursive more because I really have never been particularly fond of cursive. I was printing before it was fashionable,
Hmm.
but I was also trained in artistic lettering. But I started using cursive more often was when I was signing books as an author because I had the impression that's what people expected in a signature. And
Hmm.
I think even now that is still the case, but I think it's less the case than it was.
And I agree with that. That can make sense.
I
Okay, let's
mean,
move on. We're
okay.
going to say something? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say when I was learning lettering, in terms of what is or is not attractive, it all comes down to the amount of care that you use in creating it. And I remember when the little signs you see in the grocery store were done by people using paints or pens, where now they're done by computer. And again, people just don't have nearly the occasion for writing that they once had.
And so this all comes down to another thing I tell people we have manufactured amnesia.
Mhm.
It means we can only remember so many things.
One of my favorite films is The Adding Machine. And I
Mhm.
talk about this far too often. But the relevance of the adding machine to this conversation is that the adding machine was replacing a person. And people today don't remember when accounting was done that way. It completely displaced a whole class of workers in the 1920s and 30s. They don't remember when the term computer referred to a human profession. Things just moved on from it. And we no longer need people to act as computers in professional situations because we have electronic computers now. And the thing is, when new ways of doing things come in, they are going to displace the old ones. It's just going to happen. It's like,
I thought you were going to talk about the other one, the horror movie that you watched, and what your reaction is.
Oh, the Atomic Vampire?
Yes, go ahead.
Where the heroine is being stalked by the killer and her boyfriend is running through the streets to save her. And I was sitting there thinking, why don't you call her and warn her? And it dawned on me, wait a minute, this is 1963. There are no cell phones here for him to call her and warn her. Mm-hmm. He would have to find a payphone if there was one. It was a different world.
Yeah.
And, I remember when we still used payphones. And, it was a different world. I remember when, if you did not have a phone, people could not just get a hold of you the way they can a landline phone, the way they can now.
So we're at the tail end of the energy.
Mm-hmm.
The end of the snake, which has been about shedding the skin, especially a couple of weeks since the beginning of the year, people have been really digging into that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 17th, and it's very interesting because none of us are actually, except through the power of the clairaudient eyes of the internet, are going to see this eclipse.
That's true, but I would argue that the power of an eclipse is partly due to the astrological alignments involved.
And we have lots of them there.
Yeah, so the astrology is still the astrology, whether you can see the eclipse or not.
And Reverend Wasp, one of our old friends of ours who we did his shows, is down there with his penguins waiting to observe. All praise, the penguins.
Yes, Reverend Wasp was one of our better internet characters or radio characters.
Radio characters.
There was no internet for most people at that time.
No,
it existed, but most people just did not have it.
No, we had a character named Reverend Willard Amos Scott Preston, and he took his ministry and his dollars to help the penguins because God told him to go to Falkland Islands and serve the penguins.
Yes.
The penguins needed to find the way to God, and I think Reverend Willard Amos Scott Preston is standing there with his people ready for the 17th.
Yes.
Yep.
I will gladly visualize that.
I hope so. He was a nice enough character.
And we were talking about Ron earlier, and that was the creator and performer of that character.
Oh, yes.
And if you have a copy of The Druid's Ring, he became a character in the comic.
Mm-hmm.
And he hosted the All Nude Bible Study Club and the several other totally inappropriate things.
We had some wild. We were more wild before Witch School. Witch School really put a harness on me.
Oh, we got older too.
We weren't that old, but it was a bit of a harness.
Yeah.
And we're older, and we wanted to ask more mature, and we're growing in the community. But the same guy, wasn't it Wilmer? It was Wasp that also did the Hellman joke versus Miracle Whip.
Yes, long before the popular commercial,
Uh-huh.
he was making the joke about Hellman's mayonnaise versus Miracle Whip.
And then you go on diatribes about it, and it was actually pretty funny. It was so bad that people who were on our show when it played says, I didn't do anything with it. They thought we were going to get sued to death. They didn't understand parody stuff. There were times when people, yeah, that's where.
Now, obviously, the character of
Nude.
was meant to be an evangelical minister.
Did you say
Yes, the all nude Bible study course. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can bask in the Word of God without anything interfering.
Yeah, he was not presented as an entirely positive character.
He wasn't a positive character.
No. In fact, looking back at that character and certain things that are in the news today, he was very accurate in some ways.
Oh, sure. Oh, he was based on all the ones that were going around at our time. All right.
And Gregory says, "Oh my, yes, that defines the character."
Oh yeah. Have you ever read the Druids? It's scandalous. All of those images are scandalous. Oh yeah.
The Druids ring did outrage many people. Some because they were in it, some because they were not.
And some people imagined that they were.
Oh yes, I can remember people. There was one page in that comic where it had like numerous figures from the Chicago pagan community drawn in cartoon form. And I had many people proudly point out to me where I had drawn them, and it had never been them. But I never disabused them.
No, never have. The only character we only created, I think, one or two characters. The one I always remember is the hairdresser.
Yes.
We needed a hairdresser. We didn't have one in mind. We just made it.
Yeah. She was completely manufactured. She was a hairdresser obsessed with aliens. She was a psychic hairdresser. She charged her scissors with crystals. She gave people hairstyles that were intended to affect their communication with aliens.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you got little spikes, it helped you to pull in the alien transmissions. Mm-hmm. If you had curls, it helped you to shed them off. And damned if that woman didn't actually show up at the next big event we went to, totally offended that we had caricatured her when we had no idea she existed.
Not even a drop. And she wouldn't believe it, but there you go. Okay.
Now, people used to say that I would draw people into existence by literally drawing them, and it sometimes did seem that way.
Oh, yeah. Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been shadow workers. Okay, so this is the last piece. I'm not going to be on the air tomorrow because I'm working to do what I think is the most important thing for me to do on the 17th, to set a new energy. And I'll be doing First Amendment for pagans.
Yes.
And it's very important. And I'm not talking about, it's United States based. We'll talk a little bit about other places, but it's basically how the First Amendment works for pagans. And it'll open your eyes because you have a lot more rights than you realize, but you have to fight for them.
Mm-hmm. And they're not always the ones you think they are.
I mean, I've got some things that have happened, but obviously...
Well, for example, violating zoning laws is not a First Amendment right.
No. You don't get special passages on the use of property or the use of anything.
Yes.
You mean, there are people who think they don't have to get permits for parks to do rituals.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to do the normal things.
Yeah.
That are required of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
The minute that becomes zoning or getting a permit or anything else becomes a religious issue, is that if you fulfill the requirements of the zoning, you fulfill the requirements of the permit, and they say no, you have a right to know why.
Yes. And that is a different situation. For example,
that's where your First Amendment right come in.
They had that happen with Witches Fest in New York at one time. And they fought back against it, and they won, as they should have done.
Right.
But they had done everything right.
So, but we'll talk more about that on the 17th. 7 p.m. It's going to be my first Witch College lecture. It'll be put on witchcollege.com. It's free. Just sign up. And also, I'm going to be broadcasting it because I think it's important. And it's going to be very important. But Don, I want you to lead us in the last thing. So everything about this, the stellium that's ran through my birthday, the horoscopes are going. I'm serious. I'm red zone. I have had astrologers talking to me about what's going to be left of you after the 17th. And I do feel very much that I've come through a process.
Well, this last couple of years has been a time of changeover and endings for
Yeah.
us,
Well, let's be,
both of us.
we're very quiet, but, we were quiet. But 3 years ago, you were in the hospital.
Yeah, 3 years ago, almost to the day,
Mm-hmm.
I was
You
on
were, 3 years
what a lot
ago.
of people thought was my deathbed.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't my deathbed, but most other people didn't.
Well, it took a long time for you to get out of the hospital, though.
20 days, which is a
Yeah.
long time.
And we'll talk more about that as well, but that's not the thing.
No,
So we've gone through all of these things, but what should we be doing? What can I be expecting this 17th? I believe there's going to be channeling for people. What can they expect? What should they try to do?
in as much as we're talking about releasing the old and embracing the new, you may find yourself dealing with things you don't want to let go of, and you must. You must be willing to let go of those things, to not hold on to old things that are holding you back, but rather embrace the new things that are here. Because people love to carry things on their shoulders that they should have dropped long ago, and that's what this period, I think, is about. It's about letting go of what no longer serves and actually releasing it, as well as embracing the new to fill the void it creates.
I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
and actually Greg here is one of the big people who helped. Byron's helped. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have helped me. My daughter, oh my God. I don't need a therapist. I have a daughter.
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
Speaking of people who are offended by the Druid's ring, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's another story. Not now. We have to do a Druid's ring. We have to bring it back out. We can probably make a reproduction of it.
We could probably do that.
I think people would enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? Maybe we should try to animate it.
Ooh, that's an interesting idea.
It had fabulous characters.
Oh, it was. It was funny. And we're the second copy. But okay. But embrace who we are. One of the things I keep saying,
Yes.
embrace who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been asking a lot of questions, and everybody's like, I'm kind of like saying, the last couple of years I've had my issues. I wanted to get through things. I've had a lot of energy, grief, highs, lows. But at the end of the day, I kept trying to retreat backward.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back into what I used to. And now I think I've come really to the conclusion that I really don't want to be on the supranational level all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to build one of the greatest thrift stores in the world. But I want to focus on doing something I have not done. And this element is really about it. I'm dedicating myself. And that's a local community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in Chicago, it wasn't local. It was citywide. Okay, you can say that's local, but you have to understand how big Chicago is. That was miles and miles apart. For a lot of you, it would be like being in a small town and then having groups out in the suburbs. Plus, we had the suburbs. But I've always kind of worked on the macro.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point, I'm kind of wanting to work on the micro.
Mm-hmm.
And it's macro. Don't get me wrong. Building a library is very macro. I'm still going to be very much in the internet. I am definitely using AI for various particles. But actually, the need for source material has gotten to be there. And we've also talked about that same space. We're going to talk about building a theater. The Abbey Willow Road Theater. We announced it and kind of all of this kind of tumbled out. And tomorrow, I think on Tuesday, on the 17th, on the egg beating of the fire horse, I think that this is, we've got our plan. But it's more than just a plan. It's an accelerative plan. I plan to accelerate this whole thing with magic. And I want you to join me in this, because guess what's on the other side of the fire horse year? Another solar eclipse. And it ends to bring in the next year. The year, yeah.
It's pretty remarkable.
Pretty remarkable.
And I'm very much of the point of view that solar eclipses are about rebirth.
So we're actually going to have this 1 year where we're going to be running between eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you believe in magic, I agree. She's Greg. Let me put it on. I think Greg is
Yeah,
one of our great supporters.
absolutely.
Papa G's out there. He's been a supporter for so long. I'm letting go of chasing, making the business bigger and bigger, and being thankful for what we have achieved, and maintaining it by delegating and training. I'm a year away from 60, and I want to do things that I might like do, like creating art. 26
Hmm.
years is a long time to go, go, go.
Yes, it is.
We're of the same heart. Now you say, well, you're going to build a library in a school. Believe it or not, those are easier projects than building a worldwide organization that eventually led to the Parliament of World Religions. And maybe it's not. We just have more experience. It's true.
Yes, yes, it is.
And you've always wanted a theater, and we believe in Natalie Will a theater. So,
I have always been very involved
mhm.
in ritual theater and mystery plays and that sort of thing. So it's actually kind of exciting to me to focus on that.
Right. And I'm gonna go around Peg and Pride, get some more interviews for ourselves. But I'm really working on the library and retaining and gaining data. We've got a lot
Hmm.
of data, and people don't like it. And also that. Keep on trucking. I agree. But I think
Yes,
that's
indeed.
it. I think today, would you like to end us on a little ritual or thing, to prepare us?
Okay, we can do that. Well, let me ask you to find a nice, comfortable position and become aware of your inmost self. Become aware of your heart chakra. Become aware of your heart chakra. Become aware of your inner sanctum within yourself, and feel yourself. Feel who you are. And for most of us, this is not something we necessarily give a lot of attention to. We just allow it to be without considering it because we're so busy pursuing it all the time. Take a moment to consider who you are. Consider where you have been. Consider where you want to go. And think about all the things you're carrying, all the things piled up on your shoulders or in your arms. And which of those you really want to carry forward, and which you need to let go of. And you will find, I will virtually guarantee, that the larger number of them you should be letting go of. Yes, of course, there are things you want to carry forward, but you're almost certainly carrying large numbers of outdated things that it's high time you let down. So take a moment and imagine all those things. See them as clearly as you can, and allow the outdated ones to float away from you, to fall away from you, to go off into the universe, like a snake shedding its skin, like a fire consuming a piece of wood. And those things that are truly you, those things you want to take forward, keep those. But the outdated parts, use this moment to say goodbye to them. Know that you don't have to carry them forever. You don't have to carry them for other people. You don't have to carry them because if it's not really part of you and your life and what you need in the future, feel free to let it go. Let it have its freedom. And if there's something there that is truly yours and you've let it go, well, that will come back to you. Because it's like the famous saying, if it's yours and you let it go, it will come back. And just let all of those excess things flow away from you. And know that during this time, they can be more easily released. The effort you don't need to be making the emotions you don't need to be feeling, the pressure you don't need to be under, the obligations that were never yours in the first place. Let them go. And focus on what you need for now and your future. And those things carry forward with you. And Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we ask you to help us to make this releasing, as well as to carry forward these precious things that are truly ours. Beloved ones, for your help we thank you. May you be blessed now and always. May you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your attention.
And we'll be taking tomorrow off, or I might run something. I've got a number of things. Looking for more interviews, and on Tuesday, probably one of the more things I want to do is First Amendment for pagans, and then the energy of the fire horse. And I think we're going to be talking more about that and doing more interviews. You know, the community is a lovely community. Somebody tried to say that I hate the community earlier, that I just didn't feel like they were. But, you know, God damn it, I love the pagan community. I dedicated my life to it.
Mm-hmm.
The question is going to hold it at the end. All right, folks, that's another speech for another time. Thank you, Don, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And good night, folks. Get ready for the fire horse. What's that little bit of tail?